Hello everyone and welcome back to a brand new Pokemon TCG video. Today's deck is going to be slightly atypical, but it's a very fun deck, and I'd like to pay one last tribute to the Lysandre's trump card. The PTCGO ban for it is going to go into effect tomorrow, so I felt like it was a very good deck that I had been suggested, very worthwhile to take a look at. And again, I feel like Lysandre's trump card is a card that's going to be missed. I'm sure people have bittersweet feelings about it. I mean, some people are probably totally ecstatic that this card is finally going to get banned. Other players may be a little bit upset, saying, oh, you know, cards should never be banned from the PTCGO. And again, I had discussed my feelings about it slightly earlier, so I'm not really going to delve into it. But again, I would like to pay one final tribute to it, and I feel like this deck is going to do a relatively good job with respects to just showing us how potent and powerful of a card the Lysandre's trump card is. So the deck that we're going to be focusing around today, guys, is going to have a tremendous amount of draw support from the Shaymin EX. Shaymin EX, we are using the one from the Roaring Skies set with the setup ability. Whenever we play this Pokemon from our hand into the bench, we are able to draw until we have up to 6 cards in our hand. So Shaymin EX is not a Pokemon that should ever be underestimated. I feel like it's just such a versatile and powerful card. We're seeing it in a vast number of competitive decks nowadays. So Shaymin EX, we are running 4 copies of it in our deck, guys. Now the main attacker in our deck is in evolution that you guys don't see a whole lot. So that one is the Jolteon from the Dark Explorers set. So somewhat unusual. You guys are probably thinking, well, Dark Explorers has been rotated. How are you actually able to play this in the standard format? And the reason is that there was a promo card of it printed out not too long ago. So that's really the only reason that it is still viable in the standard set. So we're going to be running this Jolteon with the Electrigun attack. So whenever we do use the Electrigun attack, we may discard a lightning energy card attached to this Pokemon, and whenever we do this attack does an additional 40 damage. So we're always able to consistently hit for 60 damage with a single energy attachment. So Jolteon doesn't seem like all that impressive of a Pokemon. And I mean, on its own, it's not that powerful, but when it is used in combination with the Golbat, Crobat line, that's when it can really start to dish out a whole ton of damage. The other added benefit with respect to the Jolteon is that it has absolutely no retreat cost, so in case we happen to get Hypnotoxic Lasered or something like that, we can easily switch it for one of our bench Pokemon. So that's a nice added bonus with respects to the Jolteon. Also, another thing, guys, is that we can bring out the Jolteon during our very first turn. No Wally or anything like that needed. All we need is the Eevee with the Energy Evolution ability from the Furious Fist set. So this ability, whenever we attach a Lightning Energy card to the Eevee, we're able to go right ahead and bring out the Jolteon. So it's a pretty cool ability, and I highly recommend running this Eevee again. Speed is the key to our deck with respects to just how powerful it can be. So we are going to be running 4 copies of the Eevee with the Energy Evolution ability. We're also running the Bat line. I feel like each of these Pokemon do need a bit of discussing. Let's start off with the Zubat with the Free Flight ability. We're running Zubat from the Plasma Storm set. So this Pokemon has the ability in that as long as there's no energy cards attached to it, it has absolutely no retreat cost. Now it is lacking a little bit in HP. I mean, if you run the Phantom Forces Zubat instead, I believe it has 50 HP, but it doesn't have this Free Flight ability, which I think is very useful. So we're going to be sticking with this Zubat in particular. And yeah, I definitely think that this is the better Zubat overall. So we're running 3 copies of this Zubat. We're also running a total of 3 copies of the Golbat with the Sneaky Bite ability. So whenever we evolve this Pokemon, we are able to put 2 damage counters on one of our opponent's Pokemon. So pretty cool ability. Helps out the Jolteon with respects to getting those big one-hit knockouts in case that is what we'd like to do. We're also running a total of 3 copies of the Crobat with the Surprise Bite ability, allowing us to put 3 damage counters on one of our opponent's Pokemon. So I feel like the Bat line is very helpful to our decks. Just potency for the most part. So we are running 3 copies of the Zubat, Golbat, and the Crobat in our deck. Now, since we're running since we're running a whole ton of very useful Pokemon, that it would be really nice to be able to reuse their special abilities all over again. Super Scoop Up works quite nicely in that we can use it for 2 purposes. One of them is in case we'd like to be able to stack those damage counters all over again using the Zubat, Golbat, and Crobat special abilities. So Super Scoop Up can be nice with respects to that. We can also use it on the Shaymin EXs to bring that Shaymin EX back into our hand and then use that setup ability. So Super Scoop Up is a card that goes a long way in this deck. Unfortunately, the downside to it is that we have to rely on the flip of a coin to be able to make that decision. So that's really the downside to it. If we flip a whole lot of tails, then unfortunately there's not a whole ton we can do about it. But nonetheless, it's a very impressive card. So we are running 4 copies of the Super Scoop Up in our deck. Our ace spec is going to be the Computer Search. Again, I focused on the speed component of our deck. I feel like Computer Search is just a very worthwhile and powerful card for the most part. Alternatively, it could potentially be swapped out for the Dowsing Machine, which could also work quite as well, and the Scoop Up Cyclone as well. But in our case, we are going to be sticking with the Computer Search as our ace spec. Discussing some of the Stadium cards in our deck, guys, we are going to be sticking with 3 copies of the Skyfield Stadium card, just because we're going to be bringing out a whole ton of bench Pokemon, just the Bat evolutions that are going to be taking up quite a bit of bench space, the Shaymin EXs as well, the Eevee evolution. So I feel like Skyfield Stadium card is going to be the predominant Stadium card that we're mainly going to be focused on using. So we are running 3 copies of this, and just to have a bit of versatility, I felt like running a single copy of the Training Center Stadium card as well could be nice with respects to certain sorts of matchups. So we are running a single copy of that as well. We're running a single Startling Megaphone just to be able to deal with those Garbodors mainly. So yeah, that's pretty much the entire function of the Starling Megaphone in our deck. The other cards in our deck, guys, are pretty self-explanatory. I'm going to be going through them relatively quickly. We are running a total of 3 copies of the Ultra Ball to be able to grab onto any of the Pokemon that we need. 4 VS Seekers, allowing us to reuse any of our supporter type cards. 2 Ends and 4 Junipers for some draw support. A single Lysandre's Trump card just to allow us to reuse our cards all over again. Very important in this deck, just because we're going to be blazing through it relatively quickly. A single, 2 copies of the Lysandre to lure out any of our opponent's bench Pokemon. 2 Muscle Bands, a single Silver Bangle to increase the total damage output of each of our Pokemon, and a total of 10 copies of the Lightning Energy card. So with that, guys, we're gonna go right ahead and find ourselves an opponent. I have to say that I've been quite impressed by the performance of this deck for the most part. It seems like the battles tend to go 2 ways for the most part. Either we tend to win very quickly, or the battle tends to be sort of drawn out. It looks like we're going to be facing a Darkness type deck. I'm assuming it's probably going to be an Yveltal EX based deck, so I don't think our opponent is going to have a very good time, just given the fact that our Jolteons can attack very quickly. So we're seeing some Battle Compressors, Darkness Energies, and the Double Colors Energy as well. Alright, so that's a very interesting build on the opponents, and I think it's very likely that we're going to be seeing a pure Yveltal EX based deck. Not the greatest starting hand. And okay, so it looks like we're actually going to be facing a Zoroark deck. It's actually one that I've been meaning to show you guys, but we'll see what type of build our opponent has. Alright, so very poor start on our part. So I'm going to go and attach a Lightning Energy card to our Shaymin EX, and unfortunately with that, guys, I have to go and end the turn. I mean, those Zoroarks can hit for a whole ton of damage if the opponent has a fully loaded bench of Darkness type Pokemon. For a single Double Colors Energy, that Zoroark could hit for up to 180 damage. So that's very powerful. We are seeing the Hypnotoxic Laser, putting our Shaymin EX to sleep. And the N, I feel like that's going to help us out quite a bit for the most part. I'm probably gonna have to use the end during our turn. Not really sure if I'd like to lay down. So if I'd like to lay down the Shaymin EX, I mean that would only allow us to be able to draw onto a single card. I don't think that's going to help us out a great deal. So I'm probably gonna have to use the end. The opponent is using the Battle Compressor, getting a whole ton of Darkness Energy cards into the discard pile. We're probably going to be seeing the Yveltal, I'm guessing, just to try and fetch those energy cards. I'm not entirely sure. The opponent is probably going to end off their turn by using the Ascension to look for one of his Zoroarks. And yeah, so it looks like that's how the opponent is going to end their turn. So hopefully I can get rid of the Zoroarks before the opponent has a fully loaded bench. And yeah, so we're seeing the Zoroark finally make its appearance. Let's go and lay down the Skyfield Stadium card. I should not have done that, guys. That's going to help out that Zoroark. That was a very foolish mistake on my part. Unfortunately, I can't take it back, though. There's no undo button for it. Really wish there was, but it's just a decision that I'm going to have to live with. Let's go and use the end for some new cards in our hand. Awesome, looks like we have the Eevee. I'm gonna go and lay it down. Let's go and lay down that Shaymin EX to be able to draw onto some additional cards. And okay, let's go and lay down a Zubat, attach a Lightning Energy card onto the Eevee, and then look for that Jolteon. Let's go and bring him out, and unfortunately with that, guys, I think I have to go and end the turn. Not exactly the best start for us. Very, very foolish mistake on my part to lay down the Skyfield Stadium card. I mean, that's going to exponentially increase the total damage output of the opponent Zoroark. Of course, provided that he's able to bring out a whole ton of Darkness Pokemon onto the bench. We're seeing the Darkrai EX make its appearance in our Zoroark as well. Okay, so this is not the Zoroark with, the Brutal Bash attack. So that's a little bit unusual. Not really sure if our opponent is missing some of the Zoroarks that he'd like to be able to use instead. So, because again, Brutal Bash is a very powerful attack if the opponent manages to have a fully loaded bench. Actually, I'm not even sure if the opponent's main strategy relies on the Brutal Bash attack. We're seeing the Verbank City Gem. Just enough damage for that Zoroark to be able to perform that one-hit knockout on the Shaymin EX. So that's a little bit unfortunate. The opponent is looking for the computer search as well. Possibly gonna look for the Juniper. I'm guessing maybe an N, and okay, looks like it is going to be a Juniper. The opponent has a whole ton of energy cards into the discard pile. We are seeing the Yveltal and Yveltal EX as well, and a Zorua. I feel like our opponent is going to regret laying down those Yveltals and Yveltal EXs again, just because the Jolteon can just hit a whole ton of damage against them. Alright, so let's go and bring out the Jolteon as our active Pokemon. And awesome, a Golbat as well. So all I really need is a Muscle Band, and then we should be able to knock out our opponent's Zoroark during our turn. So let's go and bring out that Golbat, stack some damage counters onto the opponent's Zoroark, and then I'm going to go and use the N for some new cards in our hand. Awesome, looks like I do have the Muscle Band. Let's go and attach that to the Jolteon. I'm going to go and use the Super Scoop Up, hope for the heads. We're going to get the tails, but that's okay. Let's go and lay down a Shaymin EX to be able to draw onto some additional cards. Another Lightning Energy card. Yeah, let's go and attach that to the Jolteon. Let's go and use that Super Scoop Up one more time, and a Tails. So that's a little bit unfortunate. Let's go and use the Electrigun, hitting for exactly 80 damage to be able to knock out our opponent's Zoroark, and then draw onto one of our prize cards. So, I mean, I'd love to be able to draw into a Crobat, guys, just to stack some damage counters on the opponent's Yveltal EX, and then Lysandre it out. I think that would be kind of cool, just allowing us to get that massive one-hit knockout. So this is a pretty positive matchup for us. Lightning type is a very powerful one to have right now, just because a whole lot of players tend to run Yveltal EX based decks, and of course the Mega Rayquaza EX decks as well. So looks like the opponent is going to attach a Darkness Energy card onto his Yveltal, hitting us for a mere 30 damage. We should be able to knock it out with a single attack. I think I may look for another N, guys. I really don't want to discard all these useful cards from our hand. I could always easily look for the Lysandre's trump card later on using a VS Seeker. So you know what, let's go and use that Juniper to be able to draw onto some additional cards. And okay, so I think we're going to stick with the Verbank City Gym for now, guys, just in case the opponent decides to bring out some more Zoroarks, things like that. Let's go and use that Ultra Ball to get rid of the Skyfield Stadium card. And the VS Seeker, yeah, let's go and get rid of the VS Seeker as well. Look for the Eevee. I'm going to go right ahead and lay it down. I'm going to go and attach a Lightning Energy card to him, and then, okay, so it looks like we don't have any more Jolteons. Let's go and use that Super Scoop Up, hope for the heads. Awesome, looks like we're going to get it, bring that Shaymin EX back into our hand, lay it down, draw onto some additional cards all over again. And let's see, do I have anything else I would like to be able to use during this turn? I don't think so. I think we should be good for the most part. Let's go and use the Electrigun attack, knocking out our opponent's Yveltal, and then drawing onto an additional prize card. So yeah, I think things are going pretty well for us for the most part. The Crobats, I'd like to be able to get a couple more in our bench, and I feel like whenever I do need that, I may just look for another Skyfield Stadium card as well. I felt like our opponent was running a purely Zoroark Brutal Bash based sort of deck, but looks like I may have been wrong. So the opponent is going to use the Ultra Ball, probably has some sort of draw supporter card in their hand. We are seeing the Darkrai EX and a Verbank City Gym going into the opponent's discard pile. So let's see what the opponent decides to bring out. Possibly another Zoroark to evolve from one of his Zoruas. Yeah, so it looks like we're seeing another Zoroark, guys. That's the one that I'm worried about, the one with the Brutal Bash attack. Not really all that worried about the opponent Zoroark. with the corner and night claw attack. I mean, if our opponent doesn't have a double colors energy, that Zoroark won't be able to knock out our Jolteon. And it looks like the opponent only had a muscle band, so it looks like the Jolteon is going to be able to survive, so that's kind of nice. Normally we would be able to retreat because it has absolutely no retreat cost. However, the opponent's corner attack will not allow us to do that, so that's a little bit unfortunate, but that's okay. I'm not particularly worried about that. Let's go and bring out a Jolteon. I'm going to go and attach a lightning energy card onto the Jolteon. I feel like now is the time for us to bring out a Crobat, stack some damage counters on the opponent's Zoroark, and then just be able to knock it out. So let's go and use that Ultra Ball, get rid of the Starling Megaphone from our hand. The Juniper as well. Let's see. I mean, I could use the Juniper. I think I'm actually gonna use the Juniper most likely. So let's go and get rid of the Starling Megaphone, the lightning energy card as well, and look for one of the Crobats, which will allow us to knock out our opponent's Zoroark. I don't really even think our opponent will be able to attack us during their next turn. I mean, he's purely relying on whatever cards he's able to draw into, so that's a little bit unfortunate on the opponent's end. I could use the Juniper. I could also use the VS Seeker and recycle all of our cards. You know what, I think I'd like to be able to make use of the Lysandre's trump card before we dig ourselves too deep a hole and we potentially don't have a whole lot of VS Seekers later on in the game. So let's go and use that Lysandre's trump card, reshuffle those cards all over again back into our deck, use that Electrigun, hit for 80 damage, knock out our opponent's Zoroark, and then draw onto an additional prize card. Awesome, looks like we have another Jolteon in our deck. Possibly not awesome actually, because I'm probably going to be using the the Juniper during our next turn, so that Jolteon is probably going to go into the discard pile. The opponent has just been able to draw onto the Professor's Letter, but of course he just can't hit us for enough damage at the moment, so possibly going to be attaching those Darkness Energy cards onto his Yveltal EX. I'm guessing maybe the Zoroark, but I don't think that would be all that wise of an option. And alright, so we are seeing the Darkness Energy get attached to the opponent's Yveltal EX, and my goodness, I could actually Lysander it out and use the computers, but then again, we'd only be able to hit for 160 damage, so unfortunately we are lacking a little bit in terms of firepower. So you know what, let's go and use that computer search, get rid of the Jolteon and the Lysander from our hand to look for a Lightning Energy card. I'm gonna go and attach that onto the Jolteon and then use the Juniper for some new cards in our hand. Yeah, let's use the Super Scoop Up and hope I can bring the entire bat line in our hand. Awesome, looks like we're gonna get the heads. Let's go and lay down a Zubat. And should I bring out another Zubat as well? I think I'm gonna hold off on that for now. So you know what, let's go and end off our turn by using the Electrigun and hitting our opponent for 80 damage once again. Should be able to get rid of our opponent's Zoroark during our next turn just by evolving the Zubat into the Golbat. So things are not looking good for our opponent whatsoever right now. And yeah, so it looks like that Zoroark is going to get knocked out. So let's go and bring out the Golbat, knock out our opponent's Zoroark, and then draw onto an additional prize card. I'm thinking we're probably going to see the Zorua come out as our opponent's active Pokemon. And okay, it looks like I was right. Let's go and attach that Lightning Energy card onto the Jolteon. And then I could use the Ultra Ball. Let's see. Yeah, you know what? Let's go and use that Ultra Ball. Get rid of the Shaymin EX. I don't really think we're going to be needing it any longer. Get rid of a Lightning Energy card as well, guys, and then draw onto another one of our Zubats. We should be able to win during the next turn. Let's go and use that Electrigun, knock out our opponent's Zorua, and then draw onto another prize card. So unfortunately, I think this is probably going to be game, unless of course the opponent is able to use the N, which I don't really see happening. So yeah, I think this is going to be it, guys. So a little bit unfortunate on the opponent's end. The type advantage certainly did help us. It looks like the opponent is going to quit before one more turn, which we would have been able to win. And so yeah, so I think that's pretty much it, guys. Thank you guys very much for watching. If you guys did enjoy this video, please be sure to hit that like and subscribe button, and I will see you guys next time.